Before we continue, here's some important info. As always, we're here with our sponsors. Coutinho, our sponsors are in the pinned comment, and man, look, here's some important information for us to share here. We're going to have a discussion with Raiza about the issue of signings. Flamengo is going to try to sign players now in this transfer window, okay? The video we made earlier didn't send notifications, so we're bringing it here now. This is almost the entire segment with the new news about Mengão. Look, man, it's unbelievable. The Brazilian Football Confederation has decided on the refereeing team for the match between Vitória and Flamengo on Tuesday at Barradão for the third round of the Brazilian Championship. Rafael KLAUS is the next one to officiate Flamengo. Look, Rafael KLAUS will be the main referee, assisted by Danilo Ricardo Simomanes. Man, Alexandre Ribeiro will also be there. Diane Muniz responsible for it. It's unbelievable. Look here, look here, look. Yeah, even I feel like crying. Also with Diane Muniz on video assistant referee, even I feel like crying. Then look, Diane Muniz on video assistant referee, even I feel like crying. Look, that's it. Diane Muniz on video assistant referee, man. It's unbelievable. It's the perfect combo. Rafael KLAUS and Diane Muniz on video assistant referee. This is unbelievable, truly unbelievable. How can Flamengo do this every match? Now it will happen. This is one bad habit after another. It's the habit of sending Jorginho off without him saying anything. It's another one that, man, they don't give an obvious penalty for Arrascaeta. It's a yellow card. My wife is saying here, a yellow card for no reason. Lucas Paqueta's first play in the game. She was upset too. She said it's absurd, right? And it is, man. I'm impressed. Isn't there a new referee for you to, I don't know, train, bring in some new habits? Soon they'll have that Abel and Ramon Abetian able to referee. He's already back to refereeing and will soon be doing Flamengo's game again. Unbelievable. Look, Flamengo, this Saturday's game, isn't that the game Rafael Claudio is going to referee? Saturday's game is against Sampaio Correa, a decisive match for Flamengo. In the Carioca Championship, there are still tickets available in all sections, so the fans really need to support Flamengo. This is the moment for the fans to take advantage of Saturday, which is a day to bring the kids, bring the family, bring your father, grandfather, uncle, mother-in-law, bring everyone to Maracanã. Saturday is Flamengo's chance to qualify in the Carioca and for us to fill the stadium and throw a big party. The comeback, the turning point, Flamengo winning, taking advantage that it's a weaker opponent, but it's still a weaker opponent. You have to prove that you can win and win, start this turning point. Because I've already said the competitions never used to start in January, but this time they did. The Brazilian Super Cup always started then, and so did the Brazilian Recopa, but the Brazilian League itself never started in January, and now it is starting. And we need to turn things around. That's it. We need to turn things around, and the fans have to be on our side. They have to support us. It's very important for Flamengo fans to be present, especially knowing that there are still tickets available in all sections. Okay, look, we also have another important piece of information to bring to you regarding Alan and Marcos Antônio. Flamengo is considering loaning Alan to São Paulo and making Marcos Antônio a priority. How does that work? That would mean Flamengo would loan Alan to São Paulo. Look, Flamengo would loan Alan to São Paulo. São Paulo must agree to give Flamengo priority, since Flamengo would loan Alan with a purchase option. And then São Paulo gives Flamengo purchase priority. When they decide to sell, Marcos Antônio's situation will likely be resolved mid or end of the year. If a good offer comes in, say 12 million euros, things could change. They ask Flamengo if they'll match it, since Flamengo has priority. Flamengo would loan Alan, but would have this priority regarding Marcos Antônio, okay? It would be a situation to take advantage of and sign this player, who is a player Felipe wants, right? And then instead of losing a player you paid almost 50 million euros for, not 50 million reais, it was about 8 to 10 million euros, nearly 50 million reais, I don't recall the exact figure. Instead of taking this player and basically strengthening Vasco da Gama, a rival from Rio, for free, or strengthening any other team like Corinthians, for example. That's easy, and just sits back, man. You go and make a deal with São Paulo, getting a priority for yourself to buy if an offer comes in and they want to sell to a European team. If Flamengo fulfills that, Flamengo will sign Marcos Antonio, who is wanted by Felipe Luiz and Jose Boto. So this priority could end up happening. The priority to buy Marcos Antonio if Flamengo agrees to loan Alan to São Paulo. All right, so we're going to talk here about the striker situation and even bring in what Raiza believes. Raiza believes that Flamengo will go in with an alternative lineup with Vitão as a starter. Let's see our highlight from Placa and many other news stories we have to bring to you, friends. Bruno Henrique is reaching 350 games for Flamengo. Bruno Henrique will reach 350 games for Flamengo. There are 89 completed games, 15 braces, and 3 hat-tricks. He scored goals in 89 games. He scored goals in 89 games with 15 braces or scoring 2 goals and 3 hat-tricks, okay? The opponent he faced the most was Fluminense, 25 games. He has 188 games in the Brasileirão, 58 goals and 20 assists, 183 games at Maracanã, 62 goals and 28 assists. All right, so Bruno Henrique, these are his numbers, reaching 350 games for Flamengo. Hopefully, he'll regain good form to help our Mengo in 2026. He's already made it clear that it's not the position he prefers to play in attack. I think Bruno Henrique performs much better on the left and all that. But man, he's already made it clear that's not his preferred position to play as a striker, right? But he scores goals, especially when playing on the left. That's the position where he scores the most goals. He comes from the left. That's where he really shines, where he can participate much better. Honestly, I've seen a lot of criticism towards Pedro and Bruno Henrique, but people aren't really analyzing the positioning of these players. If a player is returning from injury, like Pedro or Bruno Henrique, it's mostly about positioning. I think the player obviously isn't performing as well as we expect. But what if he plays, right? If he's an option to come in, even if it's in the second half, in the position he's used to, he only comes in during the second half, but in the position he's used to, right? Maybe that's the best solution for him. Regarding Pedro, man, I saw Mauro Cesar talking, and I really agree with what Mauro Cesar said about the criticism Pedro has been getting. As if he were a nobody, as if people weren't counting the days to see if he'd be able to play in the Libertadores final. Mauro Cesar explained this very well. Everyone wanted to see Pedro in the Libertadores final. When he fractured his arm, people wondered if he'd play. He returned, got hurt again, and the same question came up. Will he make it? Muscle problem. Will he make the squad? Everyone wanted Pedro in the Libertadores final because they know his talent. Now everyone is talking as if Pedro were just a traffic cone, as if Pedro were a terrible player. Negotiable, disposable. We can't understand what's going on, what people really want. Paquetá, in the 2 games he played after returning to Flamengo, they're already claiming Felipe Luiz isn't good enough even after winning everything in 2025. They're saying the guy isn't good enough. They're already calling for his head. Guys, let's calm down. I don't understand what's going on. Why all this anxiety? You need to take some medicine. It's not possible. It has to get better. It has to get better. Pedro can be better. He can be better. The ball also isn't getting to him. The ball isn't getting to Pedro. Everyone here knows Pedro's quality. For God's sake, let's not create a problem where there isn't one. The ball is starting to get to him. He'll start scoring again. He'll get back to his best form. Felipe has clearly stated he wants a more mobile attacking option than Pedro, with more pressure and variety up front. But that doesn't rule out, man, people are dismissing Pedro as if he were a nobody, like Mauro Cesar said. That's unacceptable. That's inadmissible. Where are we going to end up? What kind of craziness is this, people? For God's sake. I'm impressed. Man, it's like the guy never played soccer for Flamengo. Like he never proved he's a top-level player. Okay, look. According to Globo Esporte, the Brazilian Football Confederation plans to discuss reducing the number of relegated teams from 4 to 3 in the Brazilian Championship. The request came from some Brasileirão clubs. The organization also plans to discuss synthetic turf and the foreign player limit. At the moment, each team can list 9 players from outside Brazil for a match. This could really affect Flamengo, which has many foreign players. Relegation and promotion would drop to 3 teams each from Serie B. Changes are already underway. What we talked about here in this video, we also mentioned before here on our social media, right? Now, there will be playoffs, right? The top 2 go up directly from Serie B, and then there are playoffs for the others. 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th play playoffs to promote 2, but if approved, this could promote just 1, okay? And then 3 go up and 3 go down, and they're also going to discuss ending synthetic turf or switching to a hybrid field at most. All of this could happen, man. We might see a complete overhaul, right? In the Brasileirão, in Brazilian soccer, and the rule about being able to list 9 foreign players might also be reduced, going back to 7. Okay, all of this is possible. All these changes can still happen, right? Look, we have some information here to wrap up our video. Flamengo is still looking for a more mobile striker in the decisive stage of the transfer window, okay? The preference is for a loan with an option or obligation to buy, according to Globo Esporte OK. In recent weeks, Flamengo has intensified its monitoring of the market in search of a striker. We mentioned Flamengo's offers. They approached Evanilson from Bournemouth with 30 million euros, but Bournemouth wants more. So, Felipe Luiz's coaching staff is looking for a more mobile forward, someone capable of attacking deep, exploiting spaces with speed, making diagonal runs, and pressing the opponent's ball out. Okay, we've already talked about this. In fact, the possible signing is seen as a market opportunity, not as an immediate priority. They're looking for this market opportunity. The main issue is the deal's cost and the player's fit with the playing style. The board's preference is for a loan deal, as I mentioned, with the player already ready for the role and with an option or obligation to buy at the end of the contract. Flamengo is seeking this opportunity, and it's worth mentioning that a player who scores goals, a player who scores a lot, is very expensive in the market, so you end up with a mixed team. I don't know who will play, so no one really knows who will be on the field, but we do know he'll prioritize those in good physical shape, right? Showing that, really, he came to the conclusion that the problem is much more physical than anything else. Although I believe that the team also needs to be in sync and tactically prepared, Flamengo isn't creating chances, the ball isn't getting through. I was talking to some people and they said that this is really affecting the players. The players are bothered. They're not even able to enjoy their personal lives a little because they're upset about this phase. That's important. Fans, including us, might think the guys don't care, but even though the team isn't like 2025, this bothers them. Riza likely knows the same. The players are really bothered by the situation, this streak of losses, actually 4 games without a win, and they want to put an end to it. Anyway, Flamengo hopes that this turnaround comes as soon as possible, that the players can turn things around. That's it. And yesterday I was watching a live stream by Raiza, and she was talking about the Samuel Lino situation too. We talked about him here on Placar as well. Emerson Royal is suddenly playing a new position, whether starting or coming into the game. Who is performing best? Avoid certain situations, even though a lot of money was spent on the game, on Royal and on Samuel Lino. I think you can avoid certain situations to make things work there. Another important point for us to mention is that Flamengo is still monitoring the market for an opportunity to sign a forward in this window, although Flamengo has decided not to spend a large amount on signings at this time. In fact, what this source close to the board told me is that the proposal that came up, which many people even think might be a smokescreen because of the bad moment. Not sure if Raiza agrees, but take the Evanilson issue, for example. It's much more to draw attention to this news and make people forget about the rest, because a lot of people think it's hard to get the player out of there. Especially because they spent 37 million euros in total, if I'm not mistaken. 30 plus 7, I don't know if you have any other information, but I think that's it. So, since they spent a lot on signing Evanilson, it wouldn't be easy to get him out of there. So, what this source told me is the following. We were really interested in him. We made an offer, but this offer wasn't for now. It was something already looking towards the middle of the year, especially since they'll only release him after the European season, if at all, given they've signed Rayan. So what this person told me is that Flamengo is looking for this opportunity to sign a striker now. But to really spend money only in the middle of the year? Honestly, this same person, when I asked this question, Reza, do you really believe you could get Evan Nilsson out of Bournemouth for 30 million euros? And this person said no. But it doesn't hurt to check, to make an offer just to understand how much they want. And I said, how much do you think they would want? 50, 60, that was the answer I got. 50, 60 million euros, especially because they're not used to making deals to earn little or to take a loss. So I think it's difficult, okay? It's difficult. I don't know if there's a player available on the market to come right now. Even Marco Leonardo is expected to stay there until the season ends, which is mid-year here. Flamengo is still searching for this name, and it's very challenging. Raiza explained it well yesterday on her live and on Placa. Goal scorers are costly, right? Raiza.
A player who scores goals is expensive. But Flamengo isn't exactly looking for a player who scores goals. Flamengo is looking for a forward with very specific characteristics, right? That's what Flamengo wants. Not to mention, when you ask what characteristic they want in a forward, the first thing they mention isn't even scoring goals. It's attacking depth, the ability to put a lot of pressure on the opponent's ball out, and mobility. The big question is this: a squad, it's not going to be entirely made up of players who cost 15 million euros, 20 million euros, 30 million euros, an entire squad of a team, especially a Brazilian team, whether it's Flamengo or Palmeiras. It's not going to be made up only of millionaire players. It's going to be built with players from the youth academy as well. Flamengo's youth academy lacks a usable striker. If that's true, there's a problem with the academy. What's happening with Flamengo's youth academy if they can't even offer any options?
Muniz was the last true goal scorer, right?
It was Muniz. No, I think Alassian is good too. Alassian, I think he's good. He's being negotiated with Red Bull Bragantino. But the thing with Alassian involves other situations. Everyone understands that the best thing for Alassian right now is to leave Rio de Janeiro. But that's also part of the club's job. The club's job is also to help form the athlete and the person anyway. So a squad isn't just made up of those players worth 15, 20, 30 million euros. And then there's a lot of talk about scouting. The narrative has changed at Flamengo. Now the narrative is that at the financial level Flamengo is at, scouting is irrelevant at this moment. I disagree 100%. I think that Flamengo, precisely because they're at the financial level they're at, can, more than other teams, take chances and even make mistakes on some bets. They brought in Juninho. It wasn't a good bet, that's true, but he also didn't have many opportunities. He didn't get a run of games. We couldn't really see him in the matches he played. He even helped Flamengo. Every time he was on the field, he managed to help Flamengo. But still, Flamengo needs a striker. And in my opinion, it's not just a striker with these characteristics. Flamengo needs a striker as well. Bruno Henrique, not me, is the one competing with Pedro for a spot. And Bruno Henrique has even said that he doesn't want to play as a number 9. He doesn't like playing as a number 9. He doesn't feel comfortable playing as a number 9. He has already said this publicly, and there is Bruno Henrique again playing as a number 9. Gabigol left Flamengo at the end of 2024. 2025 went by. We're in the third transfer window since Gabriel left, and Flamengo hasn't managed to bring in at least one forward who can compete with or challenge Pedro for his position. Oh, you want a specific player? I understand you want a specific player, but you can't just be stuck on wanting only that particular player, period. Since you need to have options up front, because your forwards, your strikers, besides Pedro, are Bruno Henrique and Gonzalo Plato.
No, I was discussing this with Rayla.
Players who are in good physical shape
doesn't mean they're going to be starters.
I think the team will be even better. What should the team be?
Raiza dude?
I think Flamengo will probably go with Rossi, and Varela will probably be in defense. He might get a chance. Vitão, I think there's a good chance Vitão will play alongside Leo Ortiz. Ayrton Lucas will probably be used after all this run from Alexandro. Everton Araujo should play in midfield.
Jorginho might come back.
Jorginho might come back just to get some rhythm. He needs to get back in form. He hasn't played much. And then up front, you should have a team with I don't think Arrascaeta will start, but Carrascal probably will. And then I think Paqueta will play too because he needs to get some rhythm. He needs to get in sync with.
He might use Paquetá over Jorginho Aliraiza.
That's not what he has said he prefers. He could have done that against Interna.
It could be two. He might come with Everton, Araujo, Paqueta, and Carrascal, for example.
It can't be. It could be, but I think that's it. The team in attack should be Pedro. I think he'll go with a team that's going to be very competitive. Against Sampaio Correa, there won't be much to do. It's not a strong team. It's a team that can definitely be thrashed. Sampaio Correa
puts the standings back up. Look, guys, it's actually pretty easy to understand the standings in Group B, where Flamengo is. Flamengo has to win to get to 7. Look there, if Flamengo wins, they go to 7. And then Madureira, who's in second place, can't score points. Madureira against Volta Redonda away. Boa Vista, who faces Bangu at Moça Bonita, can't score points. In other words, Madureira and Boa Vista. For Flamengo, they need to lose the game, and Nova Iguaçu can only, at most, draw their game. Because then Nova Iguaçu would go to 6, and Flamengo would be ahead with 7. Nova Iguaçu plays Portuguesa at Ilha do Governador. If either result and a Flamengo win occur, Flamengo qualifies unless they win just 1-0, in which case goal difference decides. But, man, honestly, I'm considering that Flamengo will win the game with some ease, like 3-0 and so on. Of course, they have to do that. That's their job, and count on one of those results I mentioned. If any of the three works out and they win 3-0 or sometimes 2-0, they will qualify. Now, there's that detail, which is if something crazy happens at Maracanã and Sampaio Correa beats Flamengo, he not only sends Flamengo to the relegation round, but could also send Vasco, because then Vasco will need to beat Botafogo. A draw isn't enough. If Sampaio pulls off a huge upset, it's over.
A draw might work if Bangu
loses. If Bangu loses, because then Bangu will go down there.
They have 3 wins. We need to see what that means.
First, it's victory. Forget it, right? Vasco has to win the game. Hey, no.
Flamengo won't make it.
No, I'm just saying there's a chance Vasco and Flamengo could end up in the relegation playoffs. It's Sampaio Correa defeating Flamengo and Vasco failing to beat Botafogo at São Januário. At the top of Group A,
if it's a draw, if they tie, Flamengo could go to the quadrangular without Vasco.
And in Group A there, Fluminense just needs a simple win at the end of the round Sunday night at Maracanã, a simple win to be the champion of the Taça Guanabara. Volta Redonda can win the championship if they win.
That is...
If Flamengo and Sampaio Correa tie, they might just give it away, right?
What do you mean?
Flamengo and Sampaio Correa are tied in the final minute. Just give up.
Give it up, give your heart, Paparazzo Rubro Negro. Give your heart, Paparazzo Rubro Negro. Give it up like a pope. Paparazzo Rubro Negro does a good thing for Paparazzo Rubro Negro. They refused a deal. Here, if things go wrong, Paparazzo Rubro Negro informs the others.
Follow, like, and share on all platforms. On YouTube, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, and like the video. Red and black greetings. This is Flamengo.